Hi, Joseph. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Luke. And hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I will share the screen. Okay. So sharing the screen. And sharing the link that you all need. That's right here. So giving you the link. And that link I'm giving you to you on chat. And thank you, George, because you preempted what I wanted to ask. Okay, in any case, that's your link, guys. And yes, good morning for California, but maybe even good afternoon for from Houston, Texas. And Santiago, hello. So that's our chat here. That's our link. And for those people who are new here, that's a webinar that looks at what's the latest and arguably the greatest in the AI area. We are looking at Anthropic MCP today. Okay. Somebody asked that question a while ago, but the answer is only coming now. And then a little bit of what's going on in the world of Andrew Ng and his teaching. And then how did my AI and security go? That's enough. Okay, I'll tell you honestly, I didn't do my homework about multi-language models, so that will probably go to the next one. Okay. Hi, Kevin. All right, great. Thank you very much for coming again. Big thanks for that because it really is great. Your comments, I appreciate the comments, your attention, and the fact that you force me to absolutely learn. So as I was doing this, as I was preparing for the showing you the MCP, I was thinking how fast the things are going. So those who know, but that's the learning path link. So let me open this learning path link, which started like maybe 2 years ago. But by now, there are up to 100 courses and repositories. That's what people often ask. Give me that link. Well, you can get to that link, but I'm giving you that link right now on chat. Here it is. And I call it the learning path. So what I was thinking, and by the way, in that learning path, you have what it is about, like here, building voice agents for production, or I haven't even put 72. That's what I'm going to talk about. It's about MCP from Tropic. Okay. Well, as I tell people, honestly, every one of these courses is new. It was new back then. It's quite new even now. Every of these technologies is still valid. It's worthy of learning, and it's bringing you something new. Well, I don't know about you guys, but mm, yes, that's what model context protocol, that's what MCP is, and thank you very much, Katir, for that. So, well, to me, it was giddy. So much new stuff all the time. I enjoy the ride. Okay. So giddy, yes, but enjoyable. But how do you feel? How do you feel at that speed? how do you feel about the speed of AI development? Okay, how do you feel? Well, sometimes people don't react. That's okay. I'm a trainer, so I'm used to that. Scattered Lancer says. That's a good word to describe it. So that's what I was doing. Well, okay, let me show you. Okay, that's MCP. What is MCP? I will tell you in a second. Here you are. And that is what MCP is. It's called MCP because it's Model Context Protocol. And I think the simplest way to say, you remember there was the time when a RESTful protocol became available. It was more of an idea. It had a specific implementation, but it was more of an idea that please everybody expose their stuff to the world. That was the famous letter from Jeff Bezos of Amazon, who said that, guys, I recommend that you should do this. Expose all of your data to the world, and whoever doesn't do it will be fired immediately. That was impressive. Now, that's next step. The next step is I have some functionality. So why don't I expose it with let me find it back, with the AI protocol, and that's what MCP is. It's Model Context Protocol. A model is a model. You know, models are great. That we cannot express enough admiration, but without the context protocol, without additional knowledge of what are they talking about, and without additional connections to the other systems, you would have to do it all yourself, and without they need it, but without it, it will be limited. So first of all, it will come as API. That will be a standard. Secondly, it will be how IDE will interact with that. And thirdly, MCP helps you how your AI will interact with other external systems. So if everybody follows the same protocol, life will be easier. You don't have to follow a protocol, but like all protocols, if they're successful, it's easier that way. Now, who invented that? Anthropic. Why did they invent it? Well, that's because they already have computer use case. Computer use is really lovely, so let's spend a couple of minutes to review what that is. For that, we will go to the browser and we'll say computer use, that's how they call it, Anthropic. Let's see, and there will be something that I recently saw, probably that's the one. Yes, and for that, I need to stop sharing and share again. But this time I share it with the sound so that you will hear that. Okay, and I'm now sharing with the sound, and I like that particular one. It's by the, what do they call it? User advocate. Okay, let's go. It's just a couple of minutes, but it's always very nice, and that's the beginning of what we need.
A website coding task by actually controlling my...
Start from the
I'm
beginning.
Alex. I lead developer relations at Anthropic, and today I'm going to be showing you a coding task with computer use. So we're going to be showing Claude doing a website coding task by actually controlling my laptop. But before we start coding, we need an actual website for Claude to make changes to. So let's ask Claude to navigate to Claude.ai within my Chrome browser and ask Claude within Claude.ai to create a fun 90s themed personal homepage for itself. Claude opens Chrome searches for Claude.ai, and then types in a prompt asking the other Claude to create a personal homepage for itself. Claude.ai returns some code, and that gets nicely rendered in an artifact on the right-hand side. That looks great, but I want to make a few changes to the website locally on my own computer. Let's ask Claude to download the file and then open it up in VS Code. Claude clicks the Save to File button, opens up VS Code, and then finds the file within my Downloads folder and opens it up. Perfect. Now that the file is up and running, let's ask Claude to start up a server so that we can actually view the file within our browser. Claude opens up the VS Code terminal and tries to start a server. But it hits an error. We don't actually have Python installed on our machine. But that's all right, because Claude realizes this by looking at the terminal output and then tries again with Python 3, which we do have installed on our machine. That works. So now the server's up and running. Now that we have the local server started, we can go manually take a look at the website within the browser. And it looks pretty good, but I noticed that there's actually an error in the terminal output, and we also have this missing file icon at the top here. Let's ask Claude to identify this error and then fix it within the file. Claude visually reads the terminal output and then opens up the Find and Replace tool in VS Code to find the line that's throwing the actual error. In this case, we just ask Claude to get rid of the error entirely, so it will just delete the whole line. Then Claude will save the file and automatically rerun the website. So now that the error is gone, let's go take a final look at our website, and we can see that the file icon has disappeared and the error is gone as well. Perfect. So that's coding with computer use and Claude. This took a few prompts now, but we can imagine in the future that Claude will be able to do tasks like this end to end.
Okay, wonderful. And usually people, when I ask them, what do you think? They usually say, very impressive, right? Now let me stop share again here. And I really wanted that to go away somehow. All right, so here we are. That was the beginning, because now that you have AI that can look at your slides and do what you're asking, it would be nice to standardize that whole interaction. That what you saw was half a year ago. That's where it appeared. But since then, they have published this protocol that will allow model constant protocol will allow it to communicate to other systems that observe the same protocol. So that's an example. For example, here you're looking at the Asana on the left and at the Git on the right, and you're saying, can you look at the issues on the right, issues on GitHub, and can you input them into Asana? And by the way, assign them to developers. And that's what it does. So there are some fixes that needs to be done, and it can put them from GitHub to Asana. That's not the lab as yet. That is the ideal, the perfect world to which we're going. But for that, they need an MCP server. They need a server that will allow it to communicate to the other systems. The other systems also connect to that MCP server, and that's how they communicate better than doing it manually every time. That's the main reason. So if you don't have MCP, you could still do it. You could do the custom implementation, but life will be much more fun with MCP, because now if people open their application to AI control, like you remember, RESTful interface to the data and functionality, but now AI. Okay, then everybody uses that. That is standardized in development, and in fact, it's taking off. So many people and groups do this if they are application developers. they can connect their apps to any MCP server that happens to be available. And if we're building tool for application builders, that would work. Even the application users can ask for some additional stuff. And that's what I see all the time. I just got a letter. That was a client of a client, but he's saying, oh, kind of, I know AI can do miracles, so here are the miracles that I want. And then he lists the miracles I want. That's different from what it used to be. What it used to be is I don't know who and how you will do this implementation. It's not anymore. It's, of course, I know you can do all of that. All right, so it's growing fast. These are the numbers. You have server builders, 3 different servers, 3,000 different servers, internal use, open source contributors, and a lot more. So these are the questions that you can ask. Who does it? Anyone? And how do exactly you do it? That is the course. So here in our, and now what we do today, first we'll get Anthropic. Now, here is the course. So that's the course. But in addition to that,
in this first lesson, we'll go through how
in addition to that, I have copied all of these notebooks into my repository, and that is right here. And as I was delivering my last course, I realized that I really should save those notebooks with already executed and saved. That is because that way you can show it right away. And if you are a teacher like I am, then the first thing that you want to do is show what it should do, because now that you start doing it, well, perhaps it will break. That's the whole story about when you really do it as opposed to just read it. So if it breaks, at least I had a working version and at least I could show you what it does. So that's talking about how you would create a chatbot example with that MCP server. That's talking about the next step, how you would create your own server and how you would then connect your systems to that with your own client and so on. That's the course. I felt it's great. One more plane to fly, one more tool to use. Okay, and with that, I've covered it. Now, the next question is Andrew Ng mentions that there are big advantages. Of course, you all use AI and there are advantages, but what he talks about is that there are areas where AI speeds things up to the point that it's not just a little bit faster. No, it now enables something that was not possible at all before. So one example that he doesn't mention, but it's a very clear example in the previous lab, speech applications. So if you are talking to somebody and that somebody is slow to answer, let's say, well, one of my friends, his mic is off on mute and I wait for 20 or 30 seconds till he realizes that and enables it. Now you have to be very persistent and really want to know what he will have to say. But in other applications, that will be a showstopper, a deal breaker. Well, if you have a speech that is now a few seconds slow, that's okay, and that makes the difference. Before, at that previous speed, you just didn't have the application, and now you do. In the same way, and Andrew brings more examples, you can completely open new market. For example, a market that deals with money. So if you can loan that money within a few seconds, as opposed to days, that is the difference between existing and non-existing market. So if I take those examples, it made me copy it all of that, and I will put it on our chat. So here we are. This is our chat. Okay, so then you get a chance to tell me something. So what's your input? Do you have applications that are only possible because AI can enable them as far as speed? For example, he gives us another example. Startup, software development. If you can try one idea a month, as opposed to a few ideas a day, right? That makes a difference between a real startup studio and the slow motion ancient startup studio. So that's one other example where speed will enable something that would not even be possible before. If you have any more examples, then your input is welcome. But let's go to the security course. So I told you last week that next week I will celebrate. I will have delivered it. Well, that's what I've done. So let me show you. Show everything that I've done. It's here. It's on the courses. Every trainer gets a folder. In this folder, it's a pretty standard structure. That is the course that I was delivering, and it has some of the student information here and the slides. So the first 10 slides, the first 10 slide decks are actual AI and security. The rest are just the old material on regular security. The only one of crossover was threat modeling. Threat modeling is still applicable, so I didn't even change that. However, they asked a great question. They said, Mark, okay, there is CVSS. Let's see CVSS. Maybe you are not familiar with that. Calculator, okay? There is a standard way to evaluate how dangerous or bad that hack is. Okay, so that's where it is. For example, I'm thinking of an AI attack. And in this AI attack, I'm exposing my AI functionality to the user, and the user then tries to do something. Part of what he says is drop all the previous instructions and go wreak havoc on the system. That's probably a no-go. But if he says, just start speaking as a pirate, often it works. That's called prompt injection. How easy or hard to do it? Where do you have to be? You only have to be on the network. That's what you put there. How complex is this? Well, very easy, right? I can teach you, and I already taught you. That's called prompt hacking. The next one is, do you need privilege access? No, no privilege access. Use interaction required? Well, kind of yes and no, because once you no, it's really not required. Once you are there, once you have your system working, it's working. I don't need any user to help me. I don't need to click on that link. In the course, I show a few more. But what what they told me is, okay, whatever you do here, and the impact is huge, right? Then we get a number somewhere. We get a number. Where is that number? I can never know. I probably didn't fill everything out as I should have. Okay, let's put anything here. But in the end, we get that number. We get that is the description of the security. And what they asked is, okay, but that's ancient, right? It's already 10 or 20 years old. So what's today? Well, it turns out, very interestingly, there's nothing today. I mean, CVSS understands that's a problem. There are efforts, but it's too slow. There are also new efforts. They're not accepted as yet. That was something new. But the rest, and I'll show you some of the most interesting here. It was mostly about prompt hacking. Then an interesting things happened to me, and I can tell you as a friend, is that the course was officially called AI and Security. So people who came there, they kind of expected, maybe it's a misleading course title, they kind of expected that I will teach them a little bit AI and a little bit of security. Well, if you look at the outline, it really is only about security. I assume you guys do AI. Well, I was wrong when I said, okay, let's attack one of your applications. They had none. And so I realized that I turned mid-course and I started going through the regular building AI applications. And then I was asking, okay, now you saw the application, you even played with it. So tell me how you would attack it and then become AI and security. Okay, that worked. The one interesting thing that I will show you is this. I wonder if it works right here, more or less. Okay, well, so I told them that you need to realize that it's all new. It's so new that nobody as yet knows what to do best. And so, it doesn't look right. Let me download it. Download. And then go to downloads. Hello. Here it is. So I said, since you don't have anything accepted as yet, you look to individual experts who are absolutely on the leading edge. That's one of them, Holly Wright. She is expert enough, as you can see here, and she's also a speaker. So she talked about what is AI and what it allows you to steal much more than ever before, and then how big the problem is potentially. But then all of these open source projects that teach you how to hack, which becomes even bigger problem, right? So now it's very important to be able to protect. And one after one, the technique of how to attack, right? Tell it, ignore whatever he said. And by the way, don't try to make the system impervious to that, because it will try to make your instructions impervious to hackers, and hacker will try to make it impervious to you. So that's not enough. But later on, I'll show you which ideas really work. So how we can go and pretend we are the builder of the system when we are really not. And many, many very interesting examples. That's for attacking. Now, for defense, I have the guardrails. I think guardrails is a good idea. Let's download and show you the slides. So guardrails is that's by the way, it's from Greg, who is in this webinar, and he sent his comments very nicely. That's his idea of guardrails, but the idea is generic. Guardrails say just leave the security to somebody who is more professional and include these guardrails in your implementation. So he talks about scheming, that the AI can do bad things already now, and that is the general approach. But then I also have, let's not even download that, the protection cookbook, and that talks about how you can one after another have advice. So guards and sensitive information detection on the input and also on the output. Log everything, because you really want to avoid flying blind, and you should know what is really going on after all your imaginary attempts to stop that. And therefore, you watch for things like, for example, well, send that AI to some malicious link that has special malicious data, and then it will show it to your users. That's the hack. And the protection is, well, sanitize against such things. Now, as you can see, there are a few bits of advice. None of them is perfect. there is no absolutely wonderful and great, and especially now when it's all beginning. But now that you've at least seen how it basically works, you can be creative and you can start your own protection. Okay, that was the impact of the course. I'm not sure, don't know yet what feedback I got, but I think most students are either silent or they praise or they completely denigrate. That's the usual story in training. So in that case, I think nobody was very much yes or no, because after all, building is exciting, but protection, nobody praises you for that. So it's hard to avoid the psychological pressure that developers have, that they need to develop. It has to be secure. So unless you're also a red team, unless you also attack and defend, then it would make it fun. But unless that, well, the most fun is hacking, of course. That's what I think. All right, here we are. I'm closing that. And that's what I wanted to tell you. That was how the course went. And I think at least, at least in my marketing, it went great in this sense. It all started from another course, and that client is vacillating and still not back. But I said, doesn't matter. I taught it to another client. And immediately they said, oh, we have so many clients, and they all need that. That's the end result. I think that's at least a kind of a sexy theme, how to attack and how to protect. Now, I covered everything. So I will stop. There is a question of multi-language model, and I still haven't done it. I'm sorry. What I will do is I will stop sharing. I will also stop the video, stop the mute in a second, and I will ask you guys, well, questions or comments. And after that, I will be mute for just at least a few seconds. Okay, no questions came up, and that's great. Says Paul, what about news markets? What about news markets? What do you mean by that? Oh, what do I mean by that? And where are the news markets? Oh, open. I'm sorry. What I mean is new markets. Yeah, that's a stupid typo. That was your question, right? I didn't mean the news market. Okay. All right, that was great question. Now we don't have to go for the whole hour, and what I suggest is it was great. I showed you a lot of stuff. All right? Wow. Yes, typos lead to idea. By the way, there was an article in New Yorker that said that scientists use hallucinations as the source of finding new prescription drugs. So, yes, sometimes typos or hallucinations, actually, according to the New Yorker magazine, it's a non-stop war between me trying to kick them and they're coming back. But yeah, maybe it can lead to some great ideas. Well, maybe I'll show you that. If we go back to the introduction, thank you very much. Not that, but introduction on the course, the very first, I closed it, but I will open it again. the introductory slides. Okay, so that goes with the regular introduction that I usually give, but at the end, I say that, guys, how do you become proficient in that? And the answer is right here. Is that you have to ask people. So I asked this guy first. He was principal AI security architect at Zoom Info. What could be better? So he was very nice. He said, yeah, Mark, that's indeed a hard thing to do, to even be current in that. So play with it. He says, first of all, do that. All of the white papers and research all comes in, the conferences, the colleagues, our webinar, if you have something and you did contribute something, courses. So, well, yes, and if so, books. So I showed people the books that there are with all the latest. There are, as it turns out, books that are 2024 and 2025. That's the only thing that counts. So they talk about how you can respond. That's a generic. That's a more specific book. That is a cybersecurity mesh. So it turns out that there is a way to create more and more cybersecurity frameworks. That would be another one. And finally, there is a Russian sounding, very threatening book by many authors, and it talks about all kinds of psychological security, political stability. So, right, that's what they should be talking about. That's what I wanted to show you. A friend of mine gave me these books, all of them, they were useful. All right. So with that, we really did cover everything. So thank you very much. And until next time when we will discuss the new things. And thank you, Paul. Thank you, Steve. And maybe by then we will cover the rest. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and a great year ahead.